Stand in any American supermarket today, and you'll find something that would have been unthinkable 50 years ago. A full sushi bar, complete with uniformed chefs right between the deli counter and the rotisserie chickens. Not just prepackaged California rolls, but often a full-service counter where you can watch someone slice fresh salmon and roll your spicy tuna to order. It's such a common sight that we barely even notice how bizarre this really is. Raw fish being prepared in the same place where you buy your breakfast cereal. This isn't just about sushi, it's about the remarkable transformation of the American grocery store and American palates. In 1960, the average supermarket carried about 6,000 items. The produce section stocked iceberg lettuce, potatoes, and maybe, if you were lucky, a sad-looking avocado. The most exotic thing you'd find was probably canned pineapple. Today, that same store carries over 40,000 items, with entire aisles dedicated to international foods that most Americans couldn't pronounce in 1970. The story of how raw fish found its way into American grocery stores begins in the post-war period when supermarkets were still figuring out what they wanted to be. The first true supermarkets, King Cullen in New York and Piggly Wiggly in Tennessee, had revolutionized food shopping by letting customers select their own products rather than having clerks fetch everything. But they were essentially large grocery warehouses focused on basics and bulk items. Through the 1950s and early 60s, supermarkets competed almost entirely on price. The idea of offering prepared foods was limited to the deli counter, which even itself was a relatively new invention. The notion that a grocery store could be a destination for ready-to-eat meals, let alone something as exotic as sushi, would have seemed absurd. But something was happening in American cities. Japanese restaurants, once rare outside of Japanese-American neighborhoods, were starting to appear in business districts and upscale areas. The first wave came in the late 1960s, but these were largely traditional establishments catering to Japanese businessmen and adventurous locals. The real breakthrough came in 1971 when Ichiro Mashita, a Los Angeles sushi chef, created what would become the California roll. Facing customers squeamish about eating raw fish, Mashita substituted avocado for toro, which is fatty tuna, and fake crab meat for salmon, creating a gateway drug for American sushi consumption. The California roll did something crucial. It made sushi seem less foreign and less scary. It was sushi with training wheels. The innovation coincided with broader changes in American food culture. Julia Child had been on TV since the early 1960s, showing Americans they could cook fancy food at home. Travel was becoming more accessible, exposing more Americans to international cuisine. Health consciousness was rising, and sushi fit perfectly into the emerging ideology of fresh, healthy eating. The first documented grocery store sushi counter appeared in a Hawaii supermarket in 1977. This makes perfect sense. Hawaii's unique cultural blend and geographical position made it the perfect testing ground. Japanese food was already familiar there, and the local population was accustomed to eating raw fish in various forms. But the mainland was a different story. When Yaohan, a Japanese supermarket chain, opened its first US store in San Jose in 1979 with a dedicated sushi counter, it was seen as a curiosity. Local papers covered it as an exotic novelty, raw fish in the grocery store. Yet something unexpected happened. Non-Japanese customers started buying sushi, particularly during lunch hours. The real experiment came in 1982, when Yaohan convinced Los Angeles' upscale Gelston markets to try a sushi counter. This was the first mainstream American supermarket to feature sushi, and it was a gamble. Would American shoppers, pushing their carts past displays of Cheerios and Wonder Bread, be interested in raw fish? The answer was a resounding yes. Not only did customers buy sushi, but the presence of sushi chefs preparing food in full view created what marketers call a theater of food. It made the entire store feel more upscale, more sophisticated. Other high-end markets also took notice. By 1985, you could find sushi counters in gourmet grocery stores in most major coastal cities. But here's where it gets interesting. This wasn't just about selling sushi. Forward-thinking supermarket executives realized that sushi represents something bigger. It showed that grocery stores could be more than just places to buy ingredients. They could be destinations for ready-to-eat meals, places where food was prepared, not just sold. The sushi counter became a symbol of the transformation, a visible sign that your local supermarket was no longer just a grocery store. It was a food destination. The transition of sushi from high-end supermarket novelty to mainstream grocery store staple wasn't smooth or immediate. The real shift began in the early 1990s when supermarket chains faced an existential crisis. Traditional grocery stores were getting squeezed from both ends. Walmart was undercutting them on price, while specialty stores like Whole Foods were stealing their high-end customers. They needed something to set themselves apart. Enter Advanced Fresh Concepts, also known as AFC, founded in 1986. AFC saw an opportunity that others missed. Instead of selling sushi supplies to grocery stores or trying to open their own restaurants, they pioneered a franchise model that would transform the industry. Their pitch to supermarkets was simple. We'll handle everything: the chefs, the ingredients, the training, the food safety compliance. You just give us the space. The timing was perfect. American eating habits were changing dramatically. The percentage of food dollars spent on prepared food had been steadily rising since the 1980s. More importantly, consumers were increasingly viewing their grocery stores as places to buy meals, not just ingredients. Sushi fit perfectly into this trend. It was ready to eat, healthy, and carried an aura of sophistication that grocery stores desperately wanted. What made AFC's model so revolutionary was its standardization of what traditionally had been a highly specialized craft. They developed training programs that could turn someone with no sushi experience into a competent roll maker in weeks rather than years. They created supply chains that could deliver sushi-grade fish to stores across the country. They even standardized the size and appearance of rolls to ensure consistency across locations. But here's where the business model gets fascinating. Most grocery store sushi operations actually lose money or barely break even. The real value isn't in the sushi sales. It's in what the sushi counter does for the store's image and overall traffic. Research shows that stores with sushi counters saw increased sales across all departments. The presence of a sushi chef in white, carefully crafting rolls made the entire store seem more upscale, more fresh, and more trustworthy. Supermarket chains also realized that sushi counters also solved another problem: the lunch rush. Grocery stores had long struggled to capture lunchtime customers. A sushi counter gave office workers a reason to visit during lunch rushes. Once in the store, these customers often picked up other items, a pattern known in the industry as the sushi effect. The numbers tell the full story of this expansion. By 1997, AFC was operating in over 1,000 locations. By 2005, that number had tripled. Other companies tried to compete: Fuji Food Products, Genji Sushi, but AFC's first mover advantage and operational efficiency kept them in the lead. Today, they operate in over 4,000 locations, making them the largest sushi distributor in America, though most customers have never heard their name. Here's a fact that will blow your mind. With over 4,000 locations, AFC quietly operates more sushi counters than Wendy's has restaurants in America. They serve more sushi annually than all standalone Japanese restaurants in the US combined. Yet most Americans have never heard their name, despite probably having eaten their products dozens of times. The rapid expansion required solving some unique challenges. Food safety was a major concern. Raw fish in a grocery store setting required new protocols and training. ASC and its competitors developed sophisticated systems for sourcing, handling, and monitoring fish quality. They also had to navigate the varying state and local health regulations, some of which had never contemplated the idea of raw fish preparation in a grocery store setting. The grocery store sushi industry today is a $1.7 billion business, with AFC controlling roughly 40% of the market. But the landscape is shifting. Traditional supermarkets now face competition from unexpected quarters. Wholesale clubs like Costco have become major sushi retailers. Target has also added sushi counters to hundreds of stores. Even Walgreens and 7-Eleven tested sushi sales in some urban locations. What's particularly interesting is how the product itself has evolved. These early grocery store California rolls have given way to elaborate specialty rolls that would have seemed impossible in the supermarket setting 20 years ago. Many AFC locations now offer torch-sealed rolls, poke bowls, and ramen. They've had to innovate to stay competitive as American palates have grown more sophisticated. The 2020 pandemic accelerated changes that were already underway. When salad bars and hot food stations closed, sushi counters with their sealed individual portions saw a huge uptake in sales. Grocery stores rapidly expanded their sushi takeout and delivery options. AFC and its competitors quickly adapted, developing new package for delivery and introducing contactless ordering systems, even hopping on DoorDash and similar platforms. But perhaps the most significant change has been in consumer perception. Grocery store sushi is no longer seen as a compromise. For many Americans, it's their primary sushi experience. A whole generation has grown up seeing sushi as just another supermarket option, no different than picking up a rotisserie chicken or a sandwich from a deli counter. The normalization has fascinating ripple effects. It's helped mainstream other Asian food items in grocery stores. Now you'll find ingredients like ponzu sauce and wasabi in regular supermarket aisles, not just in specialty stores. The presence of sushi has also paved way for other ready-to-eat Asian foods in supermarkets, from Korean bibimbap to Japanese banh mi. Looking ahead, the industry faces new challenges, yet the core appeal remains unchanged from those first experiments in Hawaii and California: convenience combined with a touch of exoticism. In less than 50 years, sushi has gone from being an exotic luxury to a grocery store staple, a transformation that tells us as much about changing American taste as it does the evolution of our food retail landscape. What started as a risky experiment in a few upscale markets has become so ubiquitous that we barely even notice it anymore. AFC's sushi counters serve more customers daily than most national restaurant chains, making grocery store sushi one of the most successful, if quiet, revolutions in American food retail history.